Steve. So I'm curious to know when it comes to the financial benchmarker, how can construction companies use this tool better?
So at its most basic, it can help a construction company like compare its financial performance against the industry, and see, where does the company perform in line, or where does it outperform the rest of its industry? Where does it fall short? And companies can really use the data in the benchmarker, to take a deeper look into their own operations, for ways to improve underperforming segments of their business. Or financial managers can use this information to, report to the operations folks and say, okay, we're doing well in this area compared to our peers, but we're not as strong in this area. So, what can we do to improve upon this? Where do the problems lie? Where are there bottlenecks? What can we do to improve upon this? And really, instead of just taking a look at the data as a whole, companies should really think about, how the numbers impact their own organization. Where, a company could be in its growth process, when they look at the benchmarker, and the numbers could be entirely different for companies that are the same size, or, region or industry. So, it may be an entirely different situation. So companies really need to think about, what are their goals? What is their annual growth? What strategies are they currently using or utilizing to, to get to that next level and really become a more mature organization.
And I just want to follow up because you said something interesting. You talked about company size and region. So this benchmarker tool isn't a one size fits all. They have control over the data they can see, right?
Correct. Yep. So they can, if they get the full Excel file, they can look at, revenue size, industry, as well as what region, and really drill down into some of that detail to figure out, where do we really fit here? Where do we want to be? Where should our number, what do we have to do with that data in order to get to that next level?
And the benchmarker just isn't for construction companies. It can be a valuable tool for CPA firms too, correct?
That's right. CPAs can use this information, to assist their clients and really provide a good value added service. In a way, it's very similar to the analytical review that CPAs perform during review or audit engagements. You can use the benchmarker information and say, kind of similar to what we just talked about, you're a $100 million contractor in the heavy highway industry in the Northeast, and this is where we see similar companies performing. See that you're stronger in this area, you may be weaker in others, and it just starts a conversation. And perhaps those results will, uncover issues on the operations side, when it comes to, say, converting sales into cash, are there bottlenecks, and even, possible instances of fraud. And you're saying, hey, we have all these sales here in this AR, but it's really not making it down to, to our bottom line, or, really, we're not converting this into cash. What is going on here? What are we missing? So, it can be a very valuable tool.
So if you're a CPA that has construction clients, this can make you look really smart.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
And so, thinking about, everything in the world of construction right now, like in regards to M&As, what are you hearing?
So recent conversations, that I've had with folks and through other, CFMA presentations and webinars, M&A activity is sky high. And, PE firms can use the benchmarker data to gauge company performance, forecast the value of, any potential acquisition, and really decide, give them a good idea of what their potential, their return on any potential investment will be. They can also use it as part of their assessment process, and potential acquirers can use it to bounce a company's financial performance off of, recent acquisitions in the industry. So in this case, benchmarking your data can be an extremely valuable tool. It can give owners a big picture of, what is the potential value of the company prior to the sale. And PE firms can even use this data and say, well, your company may not be worth as much as you might think because of this, or maybe it's worth more. But you know what, if you're a PE firm, you're probably not going to want to disclose that and say, hey, your company's actually worth more than what we really think it is. But, that just gives you some food for thought and kind of what, into their own thought process.
And I mean, maybe circling back to our initial conversation about construction companies, if you're an owner of a construction company and you're thinking about getting out of the business and putting your company up for sale, would this be a good tool for you from a valuation standpoint to know where your company stands?
Yes, very much so. In addition to, the benchmarker data, if companies are really trying to think about, what is, how do I, of their exit strategy, what do I need to do in order to get to that point? Outside of a formal valuation, benchmarker data is kind of like the step zero, so to speak, just to, that companies can really do on the front end before any kind of valuation work, or they engage somebody to do evaluation.
So just to kind of wrap up, we might have some viewers listening in thinking like we have our own internal set of benchmarks, we don't need this. What advice would you have for them in regards to why they might want to seek out a tool like this instead of just going off their own internal benchmarks?
So what I would say, and oftentimes, sometimes people come to me and say, hey Steve, I'm using the benchmark data. Maybe it's really not my call to make some of these decisions. It's the CEO or the COO's call. And really, my response would be is, it never really hurts to present your findings to the CEO or COO. And benchmarking your data can act as the support, for those findings. And really, at the end of the day, you may not have the capability of changing some of these processes on the financial side, but you really don't know until you try to incorporate that change. And going back to kind of what your question was, this data or these results or the process will come out eventually. It's all going to come out in the wash, so that when investors or banks or surety groups or CPAs try to drill down into that data and diagnose the financial performance of your company, if there's issues there, they're going to come out in the wash in one way or another. So some of those discussions may be really kind of hard for the CEO or the chief operating decision maker to hear, but in order for companies to be successful, the bottom line is that you got to drill down to your data. You have to understand all the ins and outs of your company. And the benchmarker is, one of those tools that can really give you, that opening to look at all the performance and all the metrics of your organization.
So this is more of a comparative analysis. So instead of just looking inwardly at your own data set, now you're taking that data set and you're comparing it to others so that you can find some of those problems, some of those red flags that you might not see if you're only looking at your own data. That's
right. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much. So for anybody listening, the Financial Benchmarker is on sale now. You can learn more at cfma.org/benchmarker.